Hey everybody, Rob Hogue here, the Bass Stalkers, by myself today in my little lair here. Update, we might be getting on the water soon. So it warmed up this week a little bit. The lakes are melting, and next week after like Wednesday it's supposed to be like mid to high 50s for like the next couple weeks. So great news there. We should be getting out next weekend, but it's gonna be a freaking, everybody in the area is gonna have like a mad dash to the lakes next week, so we'll see. But what I want to talk to you about today, I've showed you guys the project to store my soft plastics and stuff like that for tackle. I've showed you guys how I store my soft plastics in containers now. So I kind of wanted to do like an all-encompassing, just my tackle storage system. Okay. Now, tackle organization or tackle storage, whatever you want to call it, kind of means different things to different people. Like, not everyone wants to be super organized, and you don't have to be super organized. Take me, Joey, and Dean, for instance. The three of us. We're all good fishermen, good tournament anglers. We've had success, and we kind of all have different levels of organization. You have Joey, who's really not that organized, and it works for him. You have Dean, who's kind of in the middle of the road with tackle organization, and it works for him. And me, I'm like kind of OCD about how organized my tackle is, and that works for me. It kind of depends on your style and you as a fisherman and you as a person. Me, I'm going to show you my system, and you can kind of take bits and pieces of it. You can copy it, you can take none of it, but I mean, that's completely up to you. But for me, if I'm not organized, if everything doesn't have a place and it's not in its place, especially on my boat and with my tackle organization inside, it's kind of the same thing. I don't feel like I'm as at ease in my head, and I feel that when you're fishing tournaments and stuff like that, the more calm, the more at ease you can make your head, the better off you're going to be. Like I said in previous videos, I feel that what's between your ears is kind of one of the most important things when it comes to tournament fishing. So we'll get into my system. The other videos I had, like the tackle organization project and how to store my soft plastics, those videos all got a lot of hits. So obviously that's a topic that people want to hear about. So we'll get into it today. I'm going to show you, we'll probably start with jig heads, hooks, weights, things like that, and I'll show you how I do mine. It's gonna be kind of weird with the camera angles. Don't mind the mess. This is ridiculous. I'm gonna have to like do like a severe spring cleaning. I'm getting too much stuff for the size of this room, and it's getting pretty bad. But don't mind the mess. We'll get into it. So first, jig heads. Okay. So the way I like to do my jig heads, and you'll notice, let me grab you right here, I don't really have large quantities of everything. Okay, I have, 3, 4, 5, 6 maybe of each type of thing. I like these Flambeau boxes because you can get the stuff close together, but I mean, I have all my jig heads in here. My bigger swim bait, wobble heads, tube jig heads, fat tube jig heads, shaky heads, ball heads, what I use for Ned rigging, football jig heads, and I mean, that's pretty much it. That's not all my stock, but this is what I carry. I'm not trying to add a lot of weight in my boat, so I keep my extras in another container, and I'll show you that as well. If you notice these kind of things in there. What these are just Silka gel packs, okay? What that's going to do, what those things do, you'll find them in shipments, like packages and stuff like that. So my wife and me are like on the hunt. Like whenever we receive something, I check the box. If it has one of these, she gives it to me, or if I find it, I take it. And I start putting them in boxes that have metal, jig heads, hooks, weights, crankbaits, jigs, stuff like that. And what these do is they absorb moisture, okay? So it's raining, whatever, cool. You know, your boxes sit there, water gets in your boxes, it starts rusting out your stuff. These Flambos are supposed to have Z-Rust. I don't know how well it works, but I do know if I throw a whole bunch of these Silka gel packs in with my stuff, it's just another line of defense to prevent my stuff from rusting. And that, I mean, that's important. I couldn't even guess. Just imagine how much money is wasted in tackle just like in our country because of rust. So having a way to deal with rust is very important. So that's the box that's in the boat. Now if I'm going somewhere where I'm going to need a lot of jig heads, then I might put a lot extra in there because I know I'm going to be using them. Next, I'll show you my spare jig head box. And this is, well, it's got my hooks in it too. I haven't really stocked this up real great, but you'll see. So these are my spares. I got my spare moon eyes, swim bait hooks, football jig heads, hooks, A-rig hooks, tubes, footballs, Ned rig stuff, some ball heads in here, some hooks, and this is gonna stay in the lair inside dry, or like if I'm going to a tournament, like a big tournament where I'm traveling, if I'm going to a big tournament where like I'm traveling, then this box will come and it'll stay in the truck, and I can replenish if I start losing a lot of stuff. And I mean, this thing's heavy. I used to carry like all the jig heads I had in a box, and it just adds so much weight. And this year I've really tried to cut down the amount of weight I'm carrying in my boat. So that was huge. So this just stays inside, out of my boat, which allows my boat to run a little lighter. But next we're going to talk about, I have a separate little box for my drop shot, like a 360 box. It's just a small 360 box, and I'll show you this. So here we have my drop shot weights. I have some lead, I have tungsten. These are Wu tungsten drop shot weights. I have all my hooks, the different hooks I use. And you notice I don't carry a lot of hooks either because those rust out. Like I said, if I'm going to bring them to a tournament, I'll leave them in the truck. And I'll know in practice if I'm going to use them. But I have all my different sizes, 3/4, half, 3/8, quarter, 1/8. I have my little Texas rig hooks. I got my drop shot hooks, my Nico rig hooks. So it's pretty simple. It's not a lot of weights, but if I go through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. If I go through 12 cylinder weights in 3/8, I'm doing something wrong. But that's my main box. It comes with me to all the tournaments. Now I also have a spare weight box. Okay. And that's going to have all my weights, not just my drop shot weights. So I'll show you this. And it's another 360. So now I got tungsten. So I have my spare punch weights. I got my spare drop shot weights. Got some spare nail weights, some suspension for some suspend weights for your crankbaits. And this is pretty heavy. But this stays like the other, like my jig head box, it stays either in my house or in the truck. And if I'm up at St. Lawrence and I'm dropping 3/4 ounce, and I'm losing a lot, I can just bring like this whole section, just fill the boat up with those. So it works pretty well. I mean, that's all of it. But what it does is it takes a lot of weight out of my boat. I mean, this thing's heavy, pounds. And that used to all be like in my boat. So it's nice to not have to worry about that. Next, I'll show you my hooks. You'll notice I don't carry a lot of hooks and weights either. This is my hooks and weights. So I got my flipping hooks, my VMC flipping hooks. I got EWGs, worm hooks, Nico rig hooks, trailer hooks, nail weights, all my tungsten. I got punch stops. I got my my crankbait suspending. I think those are made by Storm. But I mean, it's not. This thing used to have all that stuff in it, and I'd lose so many hooks a year, and it was just pissing me off. So, and you'll notice I got more of these Silka gel packs, and you could actually bring these inside and dry them out, and then put them back in every once in a while, and that'll help make them last longer. It'll kind of rejuvenate them, and their absorption properties will come back. So, what do we want to do now? We'll get into jigs, okay? I'm not going to show you every one of my boxes. That would be ridiculous. But now we're going to get into just jigs, how I store my jigs. And I try to keep my jig fishing pretty basic. I try to have 4 or 5 main colors. And this one right here is just kind of like my structure jig / flipping jigs. And there's some small ones for casting, like the mini jigs and stuff like that. But I keep the colors basic, you know, green pumpkin with red flake, a crawfish like orangish color, peanut butter and jelly, black and blue, you know, candy crawl, whatever it is. But I'll show you this. I kind of break it down by size, so like I have my first 3 are, I think, quarter, and then 3/8, half, 3/4, and then these are my tungsten flipping jigs. These are the Outcast Tackle Seth Fighter jigs. So I have the 1/2 and the 5/8, the 1/2 ounce and the 5/8 in there. Different colors, different sizes. It's just I know those are where my tungsten ones are, and I could just go grab them. Again, a Silka gel pack. I would like to get a couple more in here, but I mean that's pretty much all my flipping jigs, structure jigs, my casting jigs, and that's in a deep 370 because I carry a lot of them. Now swim jigs, I keep it real basic. Black and blue, green pumpkin, bluegill, and chartreuse and white, or white, whatever it is, some kind of shad imitating. You'll notice I do have some white, just plain white. My favorite, the size I probably throw most often is a 3/8, but I only keep 3 sizes: quarter, 3/8, 1/2 ounce. I really don't use the 1/2 ounce very often. That would be a situation where maybe I'm fishing steep banks with it, and I just want it to run a little deeper in the water column. And that's pretty much what your jig weight, your swim jig weights are meant to do. It's just quarter's gonna, you know, fish that 1 to 3. The 3/8 you'll be able to fish that 4 to 6, maybe 4 to 5, and then anything deeper I would throw that 1/2 ounce. But we'll show you this. It's broken up into 4 sections: black and blue, bluegill, green pumpkin, and then my shad imitators. So I mean pretty basic stuff. I have like stuff in the wrong spots. There it is. And when I do these boxes, everything's labeled. It's labeled on top, labeled on the front, the sides, just so I can see things very easily. What being organized does for me is when I'm looking for something, I can find it fast. So it might get me a couple extra casts if I'm super organized. I know where everything is. Everything's labeled. I might be able to, and I have to retie. I can grab that, tie it on, put it back, and I'm just more efficient when it comes to preparing and making those changes on the water, which might buy me a couple extra casts. Next, I have some hard bait boxes. I'm just going to show you a couple. Like my square bills. Square bills, I try to keep it basic again. I have a lot of square bills. I really like square bills. But you'll notice I mix the sizes. So I break it down mostly by color. So I have my 1.5s, my 2.5s. I have a different box for like my 4.0s and 8.0s. But these are the colors I really run. A perch imitator, a bluegill imitator. I got some shads. I actually have a lot of shads. I have, you know, more of a green Tennessee shad, citrus, regular shad, crawfish, a couple different kinds in here. Mostly the Strike King ones, but I mean, that's how I break it down. I mean, that's just, I keep most of my square bills in one box. Now we got, this is my 5XD and 3XD box. See, your 5 and 3XDs are small enough. I feel that I don't need my own box for 5XD. We don't really crank that much up here. A lot of our lakes have grass in it, and cranking just isn't a huge thing. I mean, we do crank sometimes, and there's going to be times where that's the deal, but we don't carry a huge amount of crankbaits. And I like to try to have 2 of every size in the colors I use. So I just kind of broke it down. My 5XDs and my 3XDs. So I got crawfish, bluegill, shad, perch. That's pretty much what I try to stick to. Crawfish, bluegill, perch, shad. And that's kind of how I break down my stuff. I mean, if I only fish New York for the rest of my life, I could probably get away with crawfish, bluegill, perch, and maybe something to imitate an alewife, and I'd be probably fine. Next is my jerk baits. I mean, I have a lot of jerk baits. I don't have a super amount of jerk baits like some people. I mostly 90% use the KVD Strike King jerk baits. I have the deep and the shallower version. I don't know what the numbers are. And I kind of break it up kind of similar. I do have a couple more like off the wall colors, but you have your bluegill perch, your shad, your translucent colors, your chrome colors, depending on what the situation calls for. But the way I store these, I have my deeps in these 4 and my shallows in those 4. I mean, it's a pain getting them out in the deep box, but you just keep shaking them and eventually they come out. But that's pretty much how I store all my hard baits: frogs, crankbaits, buzz baits, chatterbaits. My chatterbaits are stored a lot like my swim jigs, where it's just a couple sizes broken down into color. My football head jigs are kind of like my structure jigs. I don't have as many of those. Unfortunately, I lose them a lot. I like fishing them, and which means I lose them a lot in the rocks. Now, I've done the video on this. I'm not going to get super in depth, but we'll talk about some of my soft plastics. We'll start with my tubes. I like my tube box. So you saw, if you've been following the channel for a long time, you saw that I switched my plastics to the plastic containers, and it lets you hold a lot more, which is part of the reason why I don't have as impressive of a wall anymore, because I would normally hang everything back up, put them in Ziploc bags. When I would take up like the big gallon-sized Ziploc bags, I'd put them all in there, but I was like, I didn't really have a good idea of how much stuff I had left. So this way I could see when this is getting low. I can, if I do have extras, I can repack, and if not, I can order. But what it does is it puts, I could fit probably a lot of, like especially the deep ones, I could fit 3-4 packs of stuff, so where I used to have spares, now I don't. So the wall's not as impressive. But this is kind of how I do it. I keep this stuff real basic. I have a green pumpkin, a goby. This is the new color KVD Kick, smoke purple, green pumpkin or watermelon with red, black and blue. This is chaos. I wish it was a little more orange. I need to find a more orange one. White. These 2 are flipping tubes by Big Bite, I think it's called. Yeah, Big Bite Baits. They're a little harder. These are 4-inch flipping tubes. I figured I'd give them a shot this year. I also need to order some of the new, I'd like smaller tubes, like more of a finesse tube, like a 2.5. either from Northland Tackle or the new Strike King one. But this is a 370 deep. It lets me hold a lot of tubes. It adds a lot of weight. So if you're not in an area where you're throwing a lot of tubes or you're not catching smallmouth, like we have a lot of lakes that have smallmouth up here, so I like to have a lot, because I could get to a lake and I can get on a tube bite and they're just shredding tubes. I'd like to have enough to not run out, where I'd have to switch colors or something. I could probably run this in a regular 370 container, and keep extra packs in the truck, especially when I go away, and it would cut down my weight a little bit. And I might do that next year, but because it does add a lot of weight, but I can carry a lot. I mean, I think I have like 3 or 4 packs of tubes in each of those. Next, we'll do my beavers. I run mostly, except for like these small little beavers that I had left from my Bass Pro Shop beavers. These are good for smallmouth. I mostly run Reactions Innovations, but these things store great. So I have all my colors, my black and blue, my Magic Crawl, my green pumpkin. I mean, I have a little bit of everything. That's just, I put a little extra of that color because I love that color. So, I mean, but they fit nice. I like to alternate them because then I feel like I can fit more. But the beauty is, if I'm on a good punch and bite or something, I just open it up, grab them. It can hold probably 2 or 3 packs of beavers in there. But like I said, having a lot more plastics adds a lot more weight. I do have a lot of extra beavers, so we'll see. Next is my drop shot box. That's in a 370 deep. This is in a 370 deep. This is another one I probably don't need a deep container for. I could probably get away with running it in a shallower container, but it's just all my drop shot baits. Got some Dream Shots, got some Rains. I got some 3-inch and 4-inch stick worms. I don't know what the heck's in here. That's just kind of a mixture of green pumpkin. Some Robo Worms. I want to get some regular Robo Worms, but that's the drop shot box. That's pretty much, I mean, how I try to do my plastics. But I also utilize the 360s for plastics. Like, there's some plastics that I don't have a lot of, like a lot of different types, like Goby imitating drop shot baits. I only have maybe 6, so a 360 works perfect. Or like my finesse worms are small. I can fit like 2 packs in a little in the little container. Or my brush hogs, my toads, stuff like that I don't have. I don't have a need for a huge container. I can utilize these 360s. This one's just my chunk trailers. So I have like different chunk trailers that I like, Strike King, the KVD chunks, stuff like that. And I can get away with using a smaller 360 box for that. So it doesn't all have to be, and maybe for you, having like a 360 for all your plastic works really good. Maybe you're down to 4 colors of everything, and you could run a 360 or something like that for everything, because 4 colors, you can just have no dividers and you have the whole length of this. The only thing I might change for next year is putting my tubes and my drop shots in the shorter 370s, the normal 370s, because I think it'll limit how much I take, which will bring the weight down, but I think I'd still have enough to get through the entire day if they really got on one color. But I mean, it's kind of tough. If you get on a drop shot worm, a lot of times they throw that bait a lot, and if you're on them and you're having one of those, banner days where it's like the most fish you've caught a day, and you might catch 40, 50 fish, you can go through those worms pretty quick. So I don't know. I'll have to figure it out. I'll see how it goes this year. Now here we have the wall. You guys have seen it before. You have the wall of all my baits. You notice I don't have that many Kitex. I actually switched my Kitex to a deep 370, and I can fit like 5 packs in them. Then I just have extra reels, extra reel parts, spare G-Juice, extra P-line. So I mean, it's not as impressive as it once was. Got my rods, and then all my containers of hard baits and plastics are there. That's pretty much it, guys. I mean, tackle organization, it's very important for some people. It's less important for others. It doesn't really matter. It's really about you and what you want to do. But hopefully, maybe you got some tips, some ideas from this video that can kind of help you if you are one of those people that needs to be organized. For me personally, I feel it just puts my mind at ease. I know where things are. I can be effective and efficient with my time when it comes to retying and finding things on my boat. We'll also do a boat tour. I would like to do a boat tour of me, Dino, and Joey's boat to kind of just show you how different anglers do things differently and what we're running and how we're running it. But stay tuned. We're doing a lot of things this year, a lot of big things this year. We're fishing bigger tournaments. We're going on trips. It's going to be a cool dynamic on and off the water. So make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like the video. Make sure you hit the bell. Tell your friends. And we'll see you again soon. Thanks.